Okay. Good morning, everybody. We're so excited today to have AJ from Research Triangle Park Finance Center here with us. This session is going to cover setting up and updating your grant payment account, also known as ASAP, making drawdowns, and successfully submitting your federal financial report. So overall, just show me the money. Excellent. So before I pass it off to AJ, we wanted to provide a little overview of the triad of grants management. So many of you may be aware of who your project officer is. They oversee the programmatic side of your grant agreement. And then there's also your grant specialist who works on the administrative side of your grant agreement. So ensuring that all of the federal requirements are upheld to. But there's also a financial side of your grant agreement, and that is, as kind of mentioned, the ASAP account, drawing down how to make drawdowns and ensuring that they're in compliance. And then also when you submit your federal financial report, your financial specialist also reviews that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to AJ, who is going to tell us a little bit more.
Thank you very much, Katya. All right. Put this mic here. Good morning, everyone. All right. So next slide, please. So for our agenda, they went over the triad of grants management, and I'll go over a little bio about Research Triangle Park division. And then we'll go over ASAP, the enrollment, the multi-factor authentication. That is new since September 15th. Completing drawdown within ASAP, and some things about book entry adjustment, returning funds the preferred way, pay.gov, and ASAP. You can also return funds via ASAP. And your SF-425 is your federal financial report. And then we'll go over question and answers. Next slide, please. So this is our team here over in North Carolina, Research Triangle Park. Otherwise. And there's the branch chief in there, the grants branch chief, the team lead, Charlene, and all the other regions from 1 through 10, and headquarters. Next slide. All right, so a little bit about Research Triangle Park Finance Division. We have that finance division, and it is the office of the controller operates finance division located in the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. And there is another one in Cincinnati, Ohio. Each finance division has national financial responsibility for certain functions and local financial responsibilities for an assigned geographical area. Some responsibilities include accounts receivables and collections. Next slide, please. All right, ASAP, Automated Standard Application for Payments. So it is mandatory to use ASAP. It's a United States Treasury system. It's not EPA, it's a Treasury system used by 65 federal agencies. And those are stats from fiscal year 22. And ASAP also includes features. You can run inquiry. You can have inquiry only runner where they can't draw down within ASAP or a payment requester. And this ASAP is also a paperless system. We are the EPA. So next slide, please. All right, when we said 65 federal agencies, we are on the left-hand side here. And then the recipient or organization, which tribes and stuff, will be on the right-hand side, right? And we enter in the money inside ASAP, where you can draw down, all right? So you don't go through the EPA. You'll go through ASAP to draw your funds down. All right, next slide, please. Our ASAP responsibilities and our EPA federal, what we can do on the EPA side, once we receive, if you're a new recipient, we receive your grant, we'll initiate your ASAP enrollment, basically confirming your information or identity within side of ASAP. All right, we can, and then we'll create your grant once you have completed, once we receive the email from ASAP. we'll go ahead and create your grant with inside of ASAP. We'll increase or decrease depending on your agreement inside of ASAP. We can change administrative information such as your budget end date, if you receive an extension, and then we also financially close out your grant inside ASAP. Now, ASAP Help Desk, we will refer you to the ASAP Help Desk after we initiate your enrollment. They complete your enrollment and issue your ID. Now you have a multi-factor authentication. What's inside ID Me now? So password is not there anymore. Add and delete users, and also the recipient can, once you have completed your ASAP enrollment, you then can add or modify your users with inside ASAP. And also there is a help function inside of ASAP where they'll walk you through book entry adjustments, run inquiry, any assistance, and then also on the webinar on the Treasury site, there's actually webinar you can apply and attend their webinars. All right, next slide, please. All right, so your ASAP enrollment. So once you are awarded the grant and it's been completed, we receive it, EPA, RTP will receive it, and we will initiate if you're a new recipient. Once we initiate your ASAP enrollment, we'll notify the point of contact and via email, and we use the point of contact and we retrieve it from your SF 424. The enrollment notification will once that email that I send out, once I initiate your ASAP enrollment, whomever the point of contact will be, there will include instructions and the contact for the ASAP help desk. If you run into any issues, they'll have their email. I mean, that's their best contact is via email, and not and also I'll provide their telephone number and ID Me instructions. I'll provide you some ID Me instructions. And currently right now, ID Me does not have a contact telephone number. It's strictly email. Next slide, please. All right, so these are the three websites. So asap.gov, you can go, so asap.gov has changed. So if you did save it, you'll have to just type in asap.gov on your in your browser. And you can just click on login by ID Me. And that's the ID Me multi-factor authentication website. And then for webinars, you'll go to this website and they provide dates and time when you can sign up to attend their webinars. Next slide, please. All right. So ASAP enrollment, EPA initiates the recipient, right? Organization enrollment, the point of contact, name, organization, the officials, then the head of organization. Once the point of contact basically delegates that role to whomever is the head of organization, then the head of organization will approve those officials. Then the authorization officials will approve these recipients and all this process. But my big thing is when you get into ASAP, just make sure, just to let you know that each and everyone that has access to ASAP, you'll need ID Me. So each individual will have their own ID Me to log into ASAP. All right. So next slide, please. All right. So the initial point of contact. So this point of contact can add and modify roles. The head of organization approves the users entered by the point of contact. And there can be only one head of organization unless it's redelegated. It'll say it inside ASAP. When you run the roles, they'll say redelegated head of organization. And then the point of contact, there's a point of contact name, additional point of contact who can add or modify the users. There can be one, I guess the point of contact can only add and modify the users, not the head of organization. They can't add, not the payment requester. They cannot add, or they cannot delete. They will have to have the point of contact on there. Now, if an organization does not have any point of contact or no head of organization, then please, you will need to contact me, because we need to put someone in there delegated by the head of organization. And I can only receive that email or confirmation from the head of organization and no one else. All right. All right. So the biggest one from this screenshot, this slide, is the payment requester. That is the only role that can draw down funds. Okay. The payment requester. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So ASAP communicate. So ASAP, once you complete it, you'll receive an email from ASAP. Once you initiate, you'll receive an email from ASAP. Make sure you check your spam folder. Sometimes we'll get emails saying, hey, we haven't received an email from ASAP, but check your spam folder, junk folder. And if not, please email the ASAP help desk, please. I do not send out those emails. I do get bombarded with emails, but it's fine. I'll just point you back to ASAP help desk. All right. And that is their telephone number. Make sure you call them. Select the number 2 when prompted, and then select the number 3. That'll take you to their operator, and they'll guide you and provide you. They'll email you your username again, and then you got to go through the ID.me. In order to complete the ASAP process, there are 6 steps. Each step must be completed prior to the next step. So it goes in order. If an inquiry run it, you can see it inside of ASAP once you have access. So each step allows 45 days. You complete one step, your time resets. You have 45 days to complete the next step, right? But we've seen it where an organization completed in one day, but I've seen it where it takes 3 months, or right when the grant is ending. So the best time is to get it done. All right, get it done early. All right. ASAP enrollment. Next slide, please. All right. So once your ASAP is completed, RTPFD will get an automated email from ASAP telling us your enrollment has been completed. Then we work our magic on our end, and we will enter and create your account inside of ASAP. And it will take approximately 10 days for ASAP to verify your account. So it's not readily available yet. Like if you're new and you just entered that account into ASAP, yes, you did complete the ASAP portion, but they're still reviewing. It takes about 10 days to review your banking data. All right. Now, if your organization has already been in ASAP with a different federal agency, for example, DOI or something, then it's quick. You can once we get the completion email, your money will be right in for the same day once we get the email. So next slide, please. All right. So some questions we have is, I'm having problems logging into ASAP. Who do we contact? Please, not me. Contact ASAP help desk, and then they will guide us what I need to do next, or they can do it on their end. It's been 45 days, and I think I need to reinitiate my enrollment. Like I said, right? We receive your grant, we initiate the point of contact, right? And you haven't completed the ASAP enrollment in 45 days. What do? Please email rtpfc-grants@epa.gov. I will have the a QR code with my email address on back. We couldn't add it, apologies, but I also have the rtpfc-grants@epa.gov QR code, so you can email us. But each step has 45 days. So you complete one step, you have 45 days again, and you can. I've seen it where it's done and completed all in one day. All right. All right. Next slide, please. All right. Drawing funds down. All right. Drawing funds down. So in the policy, recipient must be enrolled in the ASAP in order to receive the funds. All right. So we're not going to cut a check out and, you got to go through ASAP. It's record keeping and all this other jazz. Grants. So drawdowns are immediate for cash only and must be dispersed. So when you draw down, that funds has to be dispersed within 5 days of the receipt. All right. All funds in excess of 5%. So returning the funds if you accidentally did a drawdown. All funds in excess of 5% or 1,000 must be returned to the EPA. Now, if you made a mistake, you can also request for an exception through your project officer and your GMS. Next slide, please. All right. So when you're drawing down funds with inside of ASAP, you'll log in there and recipient login today. Sorry, do not. All right. So do not submit the invoices. You don't have to submit invoices. Make sure you keep all your documents just in case you get audit. All right. All right. There is no limit to drawing the number of times you draw down with inside of ASAP. You will receive the funds on that day or the day after, as long as it's not over $1 million. I think that's like 3 or 5 business days to clear. After the drawdown is completed, just make sure you print a PDF and keep it for your records. Okay. Drawdown is completed. Receive draw next. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So once you log into ASAP, and you open up your grant, there are 3 status inside of ASAP. The first status is your grant is good. It is within the budget period or project period. That's an open status. It'll say your grant number. It'll say open status. This liquidated status. That means that you can still draw down funds, but it's in that reconciliation phase where you're turning in all your documents, you're reconciling all the funds and stuff, but it's after the budget or project end date, and you have that 120-day window. Now, if you open up your grant, you're inside of ASAP, and you're trying to draw down funds, and you see a suspended status, you can give me a call, and we can look into it, or you're past your 120-day window to reconcile and turn in all your paperwork. The only way we can release that funds to you is a final federal financial report or an amendment extending the budget period. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So we'll go into an example. I can provide you this guide via email, so we can skip through this part. All right. So next slide. Unless you guys want me to go through it. Go through it? Okay. All right. Let's back up, please. All right. All right. So when you open up ASAP and you are when you open up ASAP, this will look like your main screen. It'll show home enrollment, all that other jazz. Make sure you hover over the tabs. If you click it on those tabs, it'll error out on you. And you will click on initiate payment request. Next slide, please. All right. So then you will click on the bank relationship and select that bank account you're going to want the funds to be deposited in. All right. All right. And you're going to select for the payment request type, select individual. Next slide. And then the payment method will be ACH. All right. And then down and request a settlement date. You can request it for today. If it's the end of the day, they're not going to send you the funds, so you can request. It'll show highlighted what you can select next week, whenever you want the funds in your account. All right, and click continue to proceed to the next step. All right, so EPA ALC is 681-28933. So you'll select that on the drop down, enter your ID. So remember your EPA grant number, it'll say XJXP, that's your program code. So make sure you put your program code plus the 8-digit after that. That's actually your grant number. Okay, so program code, grant number. Now you have your account ID. Right, and then click continue. All right, and you enter in the amount right over here on the amount field. Ensure that the account, like we were talking about, the account will show open, liquidated, open. If it says suspended, you can't touch it. That's it. So you're in your open stage, liquidated stage, which is in that 120-day window. You're still good to draw down and reconcile per your budget and project period. Okay. Next slide, please. Oh, back to the last slide, please. Thank you. And if you do have a site account, if you have a grant that has a site account, please select the correct one. All right, next slide, please. And then review your payment request and then save a copy of PDF. Next slide. All right, this is book entry adjustment in case you made a mistake, right? People make mistakes, okay? And why do we do this, right? If you make a mistake, you can adjust it with inside of ASAP. You can only do it if you have, let's say, 2 grants, and you can only do it within EPA grants. You can't do a different federal agency grant and do a book entry adjustment that way. Okay, it has to be 2 grants or within the same grant. Okay, if you made that mistake. It's a net zero transaction, so no money gets taken out of your account and put back in. That's just crazy. Like it gets taken out and then we got to put it back in. So it's a net zero transaction. Next slide, please. All right, for ACH payment function. All right, for returning funds. So returning funds, you can return it via ASAP. You just have to make sure your account, your actual account allows debiting, because ASAP is going to request this amount to be returned back, and sometimes it rejects if your bank doesn't allow debiting for that agency or that requester, right? But our main choice to return funds, or our preferred choice, is pay.gov. I can provide you the instructions or a guide how to do it. There is no guide out there right now, but we made a guide. If you ever go into pay.gov, it looks really confusing. But pay.gov accepts credit cards, bank accounts, digital payments, ACH credits, and for tracking purposes, when you do return the funds, just make sure you include the EPA grant number. All right. Or if you have an account receivable out on there and you owe money back on there, make sure you put the account receivable number in pay.gov. And if you're returning funds on a grant that has multiple sites, just make sure that you're annotating which amount or how much amount you're putting back per each site, because we'll reach back out to you. Don't worry about it. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the uniform grant guidance requires interim FFRs no more than quarterly and no less than annually, stated in your agreement or the terms and conditions on the bottom of your award. All right. Interim and final federal financial reports, you submit it to RTPFC-grants@epa.gov. I will provide you the QR code so you don't have to remember it later, and my email address, because my email address has a long name. All right. Do you have a question? Yeah. Did everyone hear that? Please CC the project officer and the grant management specialist
Yes.
in the email when you're turning in a federal financial report, either interim, final. That's also listed in your agreement. All right.
Yeah, if you CC the project officer, you don't, because sometimes the project officer has trouble hunting it down, and it's just will prevent a lot of like follow up and, hey, did you turn this in? Yes, I already turned it in. So it's helpful. It's not required, but it's a nice courtesy.
Yeah. So my question is going back to the returning of the funds.
Yes.
I know when you draw down funds, you have 5 days to use them. Is there a time limit on, like, if you accidentally draw down more funds than you use, that you have to return it? Is it like 30 days, or you have to pay the interest, or?
Not then. The interest is only comes when it's final, and then we realize you owe, and then you're not communicating back and forth. Then collections will reach out and you'll charge a 1% interest.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but if you caught it, yeah, return it back, please. Next question. Any questions? All right. Next slide, please. All right. You have 120 days after your budget end date to submit your final federal financial report and complete all drawdowns. All right. And remember, your final federal financial report includes everything, right, from the inception of that grant. Not just, hey, this was the last year, I'm just reporting it for this year. It's from the inception of the beginning of that grant. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So this is part of the federal financial report. All right. We can go over a little bit, but on the EPA website, they do have instructions. So it's pretty straightforward. I'll go over the most errors that we see all the time. So make sure your grant number is right. Okay. Number 3, the address needs to match Sam's and the award, right? So number 4A, that one's now the UEI, unique entity identifier now. EIN, everyone always get it right. Number 6, please, the report type. Is it annual? Is it final? If it's a final, please mark final. It is not an annual final. It's please mark final. Number 8, that will just be it's on your latest agreement. So that will be your begin date and your budget end date, right? And if it's number 9, for number 9, block number 9, since it's the final, it needs to match the budget and project end date. So it's not for the day you submit it for, it's the day of that project or the grant. All right. And you can find all that literally on the latest grant. All right. Agreement. Next slide, please. All right. Here where you report the funds. So federal expenditures. So D is block 10, line D. That's also on your agreement. E, that's according to your records. Let's get that right. F, $0. Next slide, please. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just for those of us who may not have the glasses on, we want to read it.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. All right. So going over again, block 10, line D, right? For federal expenditure and unliquidated balance on line D is total federal funds authorized. That's on your federal financial report. I mean, your agreement, your latest amendment. All right. E is federal share of expenditures. This is your records. So that's what you're reporting on, what your expenditures on your records. Okay. We don't have that. And F, since it's the final, it'll be $0. G, it's just the total federal share is just the sum of line E and F. And then line H is unliquidated balance of federal funds. And that is line D minus G. And if there are funds there, you will never see it again. We will deobligate it. So please be aware of how much you're deobligating, and it's according to your records, okay?
You might see it again. Just not in this grant.
Say again?
You might see it again at some point, but just not in this grant.
Okay.
It might come back.
Okay.
He's like, yeah.
Recipient share.
If you do it backwards and send it in, they will return it to you to fix.
And that will be me in Region 9.
You
Yes.
know me really well.
And if you have recipient share or contribution, you'll state that on line I to K. On line I is total recipient share required. You can find that on your agreement under, I think, EPA fund section on page 2. Recipient share, line J, recipient share of expenditures. This is your records, how much your organization contributed, right? And then line K is the remaining, line I minus J. All right. Next slide, please. All right. Block 11, indirect costs. If you have it, please report it. If you don't write anything in there because you will also get it back. And you can find that on your agreement. Your latest amendment, you can find a lot of stuff on your latest amendment. If you have any issues or anything or any questions, please feel free to reach out to me because then I'll have to type a lot in that email. Go ahead.
Hi, me again, Alvina from Los Coyotes. How are you? We have a negotiated cost that was done by a third-party accounting firm that we totally don't agree with. It's too high. We've been told by BIA that it was too high. So now we're trying to renegotiate it because just as someone asked earlier in the previous when I was here a few minutes ago about if we could just go back to the de minimis for the 10%. I did ask our specialist, Mrs. Carr, what we do because we didn't want to put that percent down when we were doing our paperwork. And she just said, as a finance person, just to give them a letter stating that we're going to go by the lower de minimis. And so I was like, I guess that's okay. Because with BIA, they were like, well, we're just going to use this for now and stretch your year out till the 24 year. And now I'm in the middle of renegotiating because it was way crazy.
Okay.
It would be like we wouldn't have no money if I went by that amount he got. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but she did say just to do the 10%. And I was like, well, does it have to just be the 10%? Because we did get a high amount.
Right.
And she should just make sure we determine the exact percentage. And it could be a little over 10, but don't go too high.
Okay.
So that was really like a statement, but really a question too. So that
Right.
was
So
right
how
to do, right?
how it works,
Yeah.
it will be we finance RTP. We only make sure that if the latest agreement shows if there's indirect costs, then we assist for the grant management specialists,
Okay.
right? Because they administratively close it out. We
Yes.
financially close it out.
Okay.
But if it does get adjusted, you know, I will talk to the grant management specialist so they can include it in their budgeting and
Okay.
everyone agrees on it,
Okay.
and then we can push it forward. Angela.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on that question. Thanks for that question. It's a great question. So if you have a high indirect cost rate, your tribe can determine to take a lower rate. You're not required by EPA. If you have a 40% indirect cost rate, you don't have to take that now. You have EPA would like to have a tribal representative to notify EPA that says, as a tribe, we have decided to take 20% or the 10%. So your EPA is not going to require, if you have a rate, your organization can take that. You have the right to take that from EPA grant. You don't have to. But it would be helpful to have whoever is, you know, a CFO, a tribal chairman, tribal council member, note that saying, hey, as an authorized official, I am allowing our EPA grant programs to reduce that percentage.
Can I add something?
Mhm.
Additionally to what Matthew said, you want to also be aware though that when you're renegotiating your rate for future years, what you're drawing down, it might affect your future rate. So I think that's part of the negotiation process that you want to take into account. And I'll also ask, when you said that I don't have any more money, right, to do the program work, is this an opportunity to work with your program to say, hey guys, can you give me more money for IDC? Because, you know, because you need it for whatever reason, it was determined that that was your rate. So there was a need there. So I'm just trying to offer that maybe that's a conversation you can have too. Oh, I see a couple
More hands.
And Veronica, maybe Veronica
Well,
first.
it's just to add to that. It's better that you get the money for it and draw it down than to underdraw, because it will affect your future rate, because you won't be drawing on your total rate. So it's better for you to call your PO and ask if there's a way for you to be able to pay for that, get funded for that. There sometimes is money available to do that. And so if there is, we will do it. Right.
There's some questions back there.
Thank you. Yeah. So my question is if we have like a, for instance, say 30% indirect cost rate, and we decide to collect at a 10% rate, are we allowed to use that other 20% as a cost match for grants that require that?
Say one more time, the cost match.
Yeah. So grants that require like 5% cost match or whatever. If we have a negotiated rate at 30%. And we're collecting 10% from that grant as what we're collecting, can we use the other 20% that we would normally collect as a cost match?
I'll have to find the reference, but I do not think that you can leverage EPA funds to provide cost share for another grant or a cost match. Does that make sense? Because it kind of sounds like you're using that difference to then provide match for another
Yeah.
grant. You can't do that.
Or for an EPA grant.
Yeah, I don't think we would be able to accept that. But I'll find the reference for you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that something that you?
Well, I
Have
know
it
that,
that you're-
that other agencies allow you to do that.
Yeah,
I just wasn't sure if EPA allows that, because ultimately you're spending the cost of that other 20% on your indirect for payroll and whatever for your
yeah.
line item.
I feel like we probably would say that, but you could draw it down. So let's connect. Let's connect afterwards, and I'd like to follow up with you.
Okay.
Sorry, AJ.
Any other questions? All right, so we'll move on to indirect costs. If you have it, please enter it on there. It should be on your latest agreement. And if you don't, please don't enter anything on there because it will be voided and sent back to you. All right. All right. And another one, in kind. So make sure for in kind, if you do have in kind amount on your agreement, make sure you state it on lines block 10, line D through H, or you could put it in the remarks section on line block 12. All right. So for question? Go ahead.
I said cost match, but I meant in kind. Would we be able to use that 20% as in kind?
For like administrative services provided. For like administrative services provided that were funded with the indirect cost pool.
So you would use it for in-kind for another EPA grant?
Yeah. So an EPA grant that requires us to provide in kind and cost match and all that stuff. Would we be able to use
So
that?
I don't know if we have, so we would provide EPA in kind to you as a recipient. Maybe we're getting our terminology mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
So the way EPA in kind works is that we would provide you a service
Mhm.
that like a EPA employee or someone, would offer that to you. And then I don't think we have recipients providing EPA a service. So let's connect.
Yeah.
It's a great question, and I want to make sure we address it.
So
Right here, right here.
I think kind of where this is kind of going is like that the match, the tribal match, not an in-kind, but the tribal match, to use that as the tribal match instead of.
And I don't think we can do that.
It would mean the tribe's paying the match, right?
Yeah, let's connect. I'm writing it down.
Thank you. All right. So it's fine. It's good. It's good to keep, if you don't know, please ask the questions and we'll figure it out. Right. All right. So on block 13, make sure you, the only acceptable signature in line B is a wet and scan signature or Adobe or what is it? DocuSign signature. Okay. And it'll stamp a date and stuff on there. Okay. If you do one of those cursive stuff, it's not acceptable. You'll get it back. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So these are all our financial specialists over at the RTP Finance Division. from Region 1 all the way down to headquarters. And then that is our RTPFC grants inbox email. Make sure you get that. And I'll also, if you need it readily available for my email address, because that's a long name to spell out, I'll have a QR code in the back, and you can just email me or screenshot it on your phone once you get that email address. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is the grants branch contact information. These are all the GMSs and GMOs and Deputy Grants Manager Officer. Next slide, please. I think it's question and answer. Any questions? Questions. Any questions? Question.
Hi, I'm Melissa from Cedarville Rancheria. We were wondering how many people can be in Access ASAP?
How many people? I've never encountered a limit. I've seen up to 30. so it's just, remember, you want to keep it nice and, in your organization, because if you keep on giving out those roles and access, it can cause a big mess. Let's say if you just give out all those, the point of contact and the head of organization starts assigning all those roles, and you have a lot of money in hands in those pots, so you got to be careful. But how many can access it? There's no limit.
So like any director could do the drawdowns?
No, only the payment requester can do the drawdown. No other roles can do the drawdowns. Payment requester. That's the only one.
All right. And you said there's no limit to how often you could draw down, but is there like a ideal, like quarterly, or?
I always recommend drawdown per, your records. There's, please don't, you can draw down 1 cent at a time every day, but that's a lot of work on my end. Because once you complete that ASAP drawdown, it goes into our other grant payment allocation system within GPAS for the EPA side. That's our ledgers and stuff, and it gets transferred over to our Compass data warehouse. But you can draw down multiple times per day, multiple times per month, or just one time. Angela.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no worries.
We do have a best practice, which is to draw down quarterly. But, however, as AJ said, you have to draw down when you're ready. So if you don't draw down, just thinking logically, that means the tribe is without payment, right? Has spent money and has not yet gotten reimbursed. So it's in your best interest to draw down the money and refuel your bank account. Does that make sense? Okay.
And also log in using your multi-factor authentication too, because if you don't log in for a period of time, I think it kicks you out and it won't reset everything. ASAP help desk. It's all right. It's nothing bad, but it's any other questions? Going once, going. Go ahead.
So we did not have our domain for Lost Coyotes for quite some time because of some past administrators. So we were using our personal emails. So my personal email is still with asap.gov.
Mm-hmm.
However, everything else I do through ID.me is now our domain for Lost Coyotes. Do I need to just update my email with the ASAP, or do I go to ID.me?
So you're all right. So this is what you're going to do. I'm not ASAP. This is me thinking, what I would do.
Right. What would be the best? Because
Right.
I have two different entities. I have the BIA in there, and then I have EPA money.
Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to assign yourself the point of contact using your new domain email inside of ASAP. Right?
Okay.
So now you have that new point of contact with your name. Go to ID.me, set that primary to that same exact one. Now you have access.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't work for ID.me too. So next, any questions? Yeah, probably one more minute. Any questions? Questions going once, going twice. Go. Another question.
Aside from the webinars, are there any other trainings available to understand ASAP and drawdowns?
Yes, definitely. Just email me. I'll be back there with my QR code email because my name is super long, so everyone calls me AJ now. But I'll provide you my email. I can send you a guide. Also, ASAP has a help section. If you follow the tabs on top, hover over it, and go on to help, and then it's a very vague, help. Also, email them. They can provide you guidance. And also, I have a guide on my desktop here that I can send you if need for ASAP drawdowns. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I guess that any other questions going last time? All right. So let me recap. So the grants office went over the triad. I did the little background for the Research Triangle Park Finance Division. We did ASAP enrollment, multi-factor authentication, completing a drawdown with inside of ASAP book entry adjustments, returning funds via ASAP and pay.gov. And then we went a little bit over the federal financial report. Please, if you have any questions, email me or you can call me. I work Tuesdays through Fridays, Eastern time from 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And my backup is Sarah Olive currently when I'm out of the office on Mondays. Please, let's just email me. All right. Thank you very much.